Hi guys, Buildzoid here, and welcome to another Z590 memory overclock video. We're not actually, we're not really doing any overclocking in the video, just taking a look at a memory overclock that I set up here. And this one's been an absolute pain, so this video has to work out in just one take, because I really don't feel like redoing the stress testing. Anyway, the setup is EVGA Z590 DARK. Thank you, EVGA, for sending over the board. 11900K. And a set of these crucial ballistics, and I have them. Well, they're right way up relative to how the camera's pointed, but come on, focus. Damn it. It's right at the center. Why won't you focus? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So this 2x16 DDR4 4000 CL18 Crucial Ballistix Max kit. And so this is single rank Micron Rev B, and it actually plays really well with Intel. Unfortunately, it does have some weirdness when it comes to overclocking, and that's why it took me so damn long to set up this overclock, because I would like, there's basically with some timings on these memory chips, you can get into a situation where you're getting like one error every 100% of mem test, which is ridiculous. Because it is really just like one error and very infrequently, but it's definitely there. It's like it happens all the damn time, but it's just so annoying. And of course, it's a 32 gig memory configuration, so it takes forever to actually get to that error, right? Like it doesn't show up in the first 30% unless you're lucky. Usually it shows up somewhere between 80 and 100%, and yeah, so this has been an absolutely wonderful experience for the last couple days trying to get this stable. Anyway, so here's the mem test pass, the final one, so 1100%, no errors, of course, running, and apparently I've overwritten that, so, 30.6 gigs out of 32. So yeah, that's a nice, stable, mem test pass. I literally went to sleep while it was running. Like, I watched it go to 400%. Once it hit 400%, I was like, okay, I can leave this overnight. I'll probably wake up, and it won't have another error in it, hopefully. And I got, evidently that works. No errors, even in 1100%. But anyway, I, of course, also ran Linpack, since that is my preferred stress test and memory benchmark. However, the benchmark side of things did not work out. The stability worked out fine. As you can see, Linpack passed. The bad news is you'll notice that this first run is like 530 gigaflops, which isn't particularly amazing, but it is, well, like that's the limitation of these memory chips as far as I can tell. I don't think it's... I don't know, maybe somebody else would be, maybe somebody who knows more about memory overclocking would be able to get more out of these DIMMs, but yeah, that right there, as far as I'm concerned, is just like, these DIMMs do not go faster, stable. I can get like a 570 gigaflop Linpack run if I just ignore the fact that it'll error in mem test every so often. Which, of course, is not okay, because that's a great way to... Like, if you were dailying something like that over time, it could end up corrupting files and that kind of thing. So, yeah, having an error every so often in your memory is not acceptable. But anyway, yeah, so 530 gigaflops. Even though if you had an error in your memory, like, every 50% mem test, it's probably so infrequent that you could run like that for a very long time before your operating system just disintegrated for no reason. Or you tried to, like, open a file and then found out it's corrupted. But anyway, so yeah, this first loop, 530 gigaflops, and then everything after that is much, much slower. And you can sort of see how it's getting like, we have a 513, 511, 510, 509, and then it really slows down and we hover in the sort of 508 range. And that's not the fault of the memory sticks, that's the fault of the EVGA Z590 DARK here, because EVGA has, like, I think their LLC on this board is set wrong. So the operating voltage when running Linpack on a stock 11900K, like, I have not touched the voltage settings because I didn't want to deal with the, like, stability testing the CPU at the same time as the memory. So this is a bone stock 11900K, and it's supposed to run Linpack at 4.8 gigahertz, and it would if it weren't for the fact that this board, for some reason, runs Linpack at like 1.39 volts, which pulls an insane amount of power and gets ridiculously hot and thermal throttles, because of course it does. Like the CPU, you can see it was hitting over 100 degrees. We have thermal throttling, you know, getting detected. CPU was dropping down to 4.3 gigahertz. And unfortunately, I only realized that this was an issue after I already finished the mem test run. So in the interest of like not having to show you guys a screenshot, I just kind of let it run with the thermal throttling, because I can't change the, like I can't set the, like I can't adjust the board to give the CPU less voltage without restarting the system. And so here we are. The Linpack performance metrics are just completely thrown off by the CPU throttling itself down to 4.3 gigahertz. The actual memory stability, though, is fine. Like, it's not that much of a performance loss that it would really affect the stability testing, but yeah, it's super annoying that that's the case. Anyway, so yeah, a nice stable overclock. I kind of actually want to save a screenshot of this just in case something goes wrong while recording this video. This took way too much time. I spent like 2 days on this stupid thing. 2 days? More than that, probably. Like, I put more effort into this overclock than what I put into my daily system. So, you know, like, I am not willing to tolerate this not, like, getting disappeared. Also, that's 44 loops of Linpack. So, yeah, that's a pretty intense Linpack stress test right there. Yeah, so I'm going to save a screenshot of this lovely memory overclock. So, yeah, now let's run all the popular memory benchmarks that are extremely inaccurate, as I have a video that'll, well, either the video is already up. Actually, it'll probably be up before this video goes live. So yeah, I have a video about why EVGA and well, Geekbench both kind of suck at measuring memory bandwidth, and also just the latency test itself is really flawed. But anyway, let's run the memory test. Oh, and I haven't mentioned what memory settings we're at yet. So we're at 4600, 18, 21, 21, 40, 1T, well, 2T command rate, because the memory controller is of course in gear 2, and in gear 2 the memory controller runs at half the speed of the memory, and since the the command rate is well, the memory controller issues the commands. So if the memory controller is running at half the speed of the memory, it's going to be issuing commands at half speed, which would be the same thing as if it was at the same speed, like if it was at the same clock as the memory and it had a 2-tick command rate, it would be this, like that ends up being the same thing. I should have really just pulled up the Intel documentation that covers that. But anyway, yeah, so EVGA actually looks really good on this overclock, though Linpack actually, even once we fix the thermal throttling, which we will do in this video because I want to actually know how this runs when it isn't thermally throttling. So EVGA seems to love this, right? We were getting 46.1 nanoseconds of latency, which is certainly not bad for another one of these sort of looser running memory chips, though these Crucial does something to their memory sticks that just makes them really good for what they are. Like if you see most other manufacturers sell, like a lot of other manufacturers obviously sell memory chips based on Micron ICs, but none of them ship them with XMPs as aggressive in terms of the timings as what Crucial does. And yeah, like TRCD21 at 4600, like that's actually really good. That's really like that's like, could B-die kits do better? Yes, but a lot of the time it ends up actually being very difficult to stabilize those kinds of overclocks on B-die, whereas this does, you know, TRCD20. Like, this is approaching B-die territory, except, of course, these are 16 gig DIMMs. So, yeah, this is actually a really cool memory kit for 11th gen CPUs, because you can get good latency. Well, we'll see about the Linpack performance, which I still think isn't quite as high as what you can get out of B-die kits. For the stock settings, the CPU tops out at around, stock CPU clocks, the CPU tops out at around 570 gigaflops per second. I don't believe that this overclock is going to hit that, but it should get pretty close. And yeah, this is also relatively easy to set up. And I do have a fan on the memory sticks, which I might have forgotten to mention. So yeah, you can see there's a fan sitting on the board. So that makes sure that the memory sticks don't overheat. And obviously, like, because Micron Rev B is temperature sensitive, basically any memory chip, like the vast majority of memory chips are temperature sensitive to some extent, some more so than others. And actually, I'm not even sure the fan is necessary because I threw the fan on there because I was having those one-off errors after like 100% runtime. And my first thought was like, oh, this is thermals related. It might, like, there's a decent chance this would actually run without the fan, but it's like I'm not running another 500% mem test on this. This has taken way too much time and effort. I'm not even sure it's been 2 days. I don't know how much time I just put into this memory, because yeah. Anyway, so that was IDA, and IDA looks good. Geekbench, we're getting over 10,000 points actually for memory. So yeah, and I'm taking way longer than necessary to get through all these benchmarks. I'm not even sure why I'm bothering with Geekbench, considering that IDA and Geekbench sort of end up, like, in terms of how they measure memory performance, they both have the same problem. So it doesn't make sense to use both of them. I guess IDA is the more popular one because it gives people, like, easy to interpret numbers that don't actually mean anything. But anyway, yeah, 10,500 points, you know, with like this is completely stable. So this is a very fast, like in terms of peak bandwidth, this is very fast. In terms of useful throughput, it's a bit wonky because of the timing. So let's go into the BIOS and fix the thermal throttling, and also cover why it is that this kit is... So it looks really good in Geekbench and IDA, but it's not actually that great in proper memory-intensive workloads like Linpack because of one simple issue. So first I'm just going to fix the throttling. We're just going to add more droop to it. There we go. That's just going to reduce the load voltage, and that's going to fix the thermal throttling. Anyway, so basically the problem with this kit is this right here. TRRDS and TRRD... Well, TRRDS is fine. That's at 4. But TRRDL is very much not fine. That's an 8. And TFAW is at 38. So this right here, and I'm not entirely certain that they have to be quite this loose, but I can tell you for sure that 4624, by which I mean 4624, this doesn't work. This gets an error about every 90%. 4416 gets an error anywhere between like 30 and 100%. I think what I tried 4632. That gets an error. Actually, no, I think I tried it 4636. Yeah, I think 32 was an error at around 200%, and 36 was an error at around 330%, which I absolutely like lost. I tried to get, yeah, I can't say the word I wanted to say, but I lost the implied when that happened, because that was like, I was like finally like, yes, finally I will have a 400% mem test pass, and then error at 330%, and I'm just like... So yeah, so if you're tuning Micron Rev B single rank or even dual rank, will probably have the same issue, because I really think it's not a function of the motherboard or the memory sticks. I really think it's just these memory chips have a weak TRDL and a weak TFAW. And actually, I'm not sure if you could maybe work around that by just having a really loose TRDL. Like maybe you could run a 4920 or something, or a 41020, you know, well, like a 41016 maybe, which would potentially give you actually better performance. But the thing is just like, it takes way too much time to stress test this. And yeah, I'm not doing that. So 4836. This works. I'm not going to change it. Also, this is a Micron memory chip, and like most Micron memory chips, this stuff really benefits from having a reduced VTT DDR. So we're at minus 80 millivolts on the VTT DDR and 1.55 volts operating voltage, because you can actually get Micron Rev B based memory kits with 1.55 volt XMPs. So if manufacturers are willing to ship these sticks with voltages that high, I am willing to set up overclocks with voltages that high, because like if manufacturers are willing to offer warranties at 1.55 volts, then I see no reason that the kit should, you know, degrade or anything. It is just a bit of a, like I did mention that these are thermally, like temperature sensitive, so at these higher voltages you do have to keep in mind that your memory will run hotter. So yeah, but you know, you could just point a fan at it. Zip ties are very effective at attaching fans in places they shouldn't be. So, you know, just need a little bit of creativity for that. Anyway, rest of the timings, we have TWR10, TRFC 640. This might actually go lower. I'm not sure how much lower, but it might go lower. Also, TCWL 12, which might look really low considering that we're at TCL18. But the trick to that is that you actually run your RDWRs looser. Yeah, so you can trade cast write latency for RDWRs to some extent, and yeah, so I have it set up for low cast write latency at the cost of somewhat higher TRDWRs. Like potentially you could also run like 16, 12, 12, 12. The thing is with the TCWL 12, this actually gets better latency. So yeah, and potentially there's more room for improvement in that, like maybe TCL10 would even work if I loosened out the RDWRs even further, but we are not touching this at this point. I am so done with this memory kit. Maybe I'll test that theory out when I mess around with some of the dual rank Rev B sticks I have from Micron. But yeah, like this right here is just like, I'm so done with this. This took way too long. Anyway, TRFC 640, so yeah, I wish that was lower. TREFI 65,000. I forgot to set the TCK back to 4. I should have probably put that back to 4. Because yeah, it was part of like troubleshooting the one-off errors. I started with this at 4 and then I raised it back up to 8, and it's like, no, it would have been fine at 4 because the one-off errors never disappeared until I you know, set the TFAW to 30. Actually, wait, 38, not 36. 38 and the TRRDL to 8. So yeah. This would probably work at 4, but since it's at 8 now, let's leave it at 8. TREFI 65,000, that is completely maxed out on this motherboard. Other motherboards will actually let you add a couple more clock cycles on top of that, but this literally doesn't go any higher. And you do want to max out your you want to max out your TREFI for performance, because maxed out TREFI minimizes how much time your memory spends refreshing, meaning that you can do more, you can send more operations to the memory in the same amount of time, as you have more available clock cycles to do stuff. Anyway, for the tertiaries, so we have 7444. These two, like this timing and this timing, these don't apply because this is a single rank setup. So you have same group, different group, and those apply to single rank memory setups. But different rank and different DIMM, those don't apply because this is a single rank memory configuration. And then we have the same thing going on over here with the 15s. These don't apply. Like, the main reason I actually punch in the, like, 7444 is it's aesthetically pleasing. It's not actually, like, it doesn't do anything. Like, for all, it could be an auto, and it wouldn't make a difference. It's just kind of like, yeah. Nicer to look at your timings when you don't have auto sticking out of them all over the place, right? Then 3226 on the WRRD. These might go lower. I'm not entirely sure that they will go lower, but they might go lower. And they do affect performance quite a bit, but a lot of, like, in my experience, a lot of the time, going much below this point starts causing Linpack. Well, that's admittedly with other memory chips, but I have a suspicion that these tend to probably put a lot of load on the memory controller, so there might be room for improvement here, but I don't think there's that much. And then we have the right-to-right same group at 7, and then and then we have the different group at 4 again, but DR and DD, just ignore those. TXB at 4, this improves memory latency a bit, and then everything else is auto. So the Dark does a very solid job of configuring all of this other stuff on its own. So that's nice that I don't have to set those settings. For voltages, we have system agent voltage at 1.4 volts, which is as high as you want to go for long-term daily use. VCCIO is at 1.1. That shouldn't really do anything in this scenario. Also, the system agent voltage probably doesn't have to be at 1.4 volts either. That could probably, like, my experience with 11th gen so far has been that a lot of the time, like, the system agent voltage doesn't really do much, but this works, and I am done, like I mentioned before, I am super done with this, and 1.4 volts is safe for long-term use, and I am not lowering that, because then you'd have to run the stress tests all over again, and I'm done. I'm super done with stress testing this. No more. No more mem test. Then we've got VCCIO auxiliary at 1.45 volts, which is as high as I'd be willing to go on that voltage. Any more than that, like, I'm not aware of any, like, documented cases of chips degrading yet, but my experience with memory controllers is that they don't degrade, they up and die randomly. Well, some of them degrade, but a lot of them will just happily up and die at random. And the funny thing about the I/O auxiliary voltage is it's actually for PCIe and memory. So there's like a chance that if you run it really high, it'll actually just drop your it'll kill your PCIe controller potentially. And there are CPUs where that happens. So yeah, anyway, at 1.45 volts, it's plenty safe for long-term use, so are you kidding me? Anyway, yeah, so 1.45 volts is plenty safe for long-term use, so we're gonna leave it at that. VCC PLL_OC is at 1.22. You don't need to set that. Like, I was getting desperate and making strange voltage tuning options. The ring PLL at 0.965 volts can help a little bit with stability. When memory overclocking. It certainly doesn't harm anything in my experience, so bumping that up is just kind of like, a lot of the time it'll do nothing. Sometimes it helps. Same goes for, well, the MCPLL, this just straight up does nothing. No, I think for the most part, I've never seen that actually do anything. It's really just the ring PLL that can help occasionally, but yeah, so this is a leftover from me just going absolutely insane over the very infrequent errors caused by TRRDL, where I was just like, because somebody else was like, no, I can run 4624 just fine, and I was like, no, you can't. They were like, oh, it's because of voltages, and like, no, it's not because of voltages. If you run your TRRDL low enough, it just randomly errors every 100-ish% of HCI mem test. I don't know if it does that in any other stress tests. Like, I use memtest, like HCI memtest Pro, and yeah, like, it picks up an error every so often if you run the TRRDL super low, and these voltages are just a side effect of me trying to desperately get some stability into this, but yeah, that really didn't go anywhere, so you can ignore those. Anyway, let's save this and run Linpack again, except this time without the thermal throttling. Also, I will say what's really nice about the Z590 DARK when memory overclocking is this board boots quickly. Like, it trains memory quickly, it boots quickly, it's really great. It's got a safe boot button. Not my favorite implementation of safe boot, because the board goes to the last last known good settings, but it determines what the last known good settings are based on what was the last setting that actually booted. Which has the issue of, like, you could potentially boot memory overclocks that are so unstable that even, like, the BIOS will crash, and the board will actually use that as a safe boot. So, yeah, now that obviously not a super frequent thing to happen, and I need to deal with the capture card. Give me a second. But, annoying nonetheless, that, like, the safe boot, there's better, I prefer, like, the Gigabyte and Asus approach to having safe boot, which is that safe boot just takes you to bone stock settings. Now, there are some downsides to that, but they're really not relevant for daily usage. So, and there are workarounds for those that the boards, like both Gigabyte and Asus have. So, yeah, anyway, let's run Linpack, except this time without a bunch of thermal throttling. So I'm going to pull up hardware info. Yeah, let's go for 4 loops. Yeah, so you can see that hardware info actually reads out the command rate correctly, whereas everything else tells you you're at 1T, but you're not, because the memory controller's running at half rate. Like, the thing is, the memory controller, you can think of it as running at half the rate of the memory. So even if it's issuing commands every cycle, it's issuing them, every other cycle for the memory, so at 2-tick command rate. It's still getting really hot, isn't it? Yep, but it's not thermal throttling this time. Man, this board. I didn't think this would be an issue, because when I ran this on the when I was using Linpack on the Z590 Elite, it was perfectly fine. That board runs a lot less voltage for whatever reason on stock settings. And it's stable, so I don't get why the Dark actually runs such high voltages. And it's still really high, because it's still hitting really, really high temperatures. Okay, so 549. Yeah, that's actually a really solid solid result there. Yeah, if it's not thermal throttling, this actually looks a lot better. So even that 530 on the previous stability test run, that was terrible actually. Like, it was still thermal throttling a lot. Honestly, I think I could have given it even more V-droop. Instead of plus 50, I could have probably gone up to like plus 100. Yeah, that probably would have been the correct. Yeah, that would have been a better idea, I think. Still though, like 549 is still not as high as I'd like it to be. The thing is, the TRRD timings control your delays between activate commands. And every time you want to read or write data to the memory, like read from the memory stick or write to the memory stick, you need to send an activate command. And so the TRRDS, well, that just takes 4 clock cycles, so that's fine. That's like, you literally cannot have a shorter activate delay than that. But the 8 takes really long. And Linpack, unlike IDA, actually like hammers the memory access really hard. So Linpack is really sensitive to having loose activate timings, which like IDA and Geekbench just kind of don't care, basically at all, which is why I don't like using them. Or more like, I don't like IDA, and the thing is, Geekbench gets benched on hardware bot, so I like to see Geekbench scores just because it's like easy to compare against the hardware bot rankings. But yeah, in terms of actual, like, as far as being a good memory benchmark, not great. And we're thermal throttling again. Man, like, this is the same cooler I used on the Z590 Elite. It's not like I've changed something drastic, like, to the point that this should be an issue right now, but oh well. Yeah, so, we are still getting really close to I think the DJR memory set, like the DJR setup was doing like 560, 570-ish, but this has much lower latency. And Linpack seems pretty happy with it, so yeah, I'm happy with it too. Yeah, when it was at 530, I was so worried. Like, it makes sense that the TRRDs aren't causing that much of a problem, but yeah, it's thermal throttling again. Also, the thing I wanted to pull up is actually this kit on auto sets the TRRDs pretty loose, which is sort of what gave me the idea that, oh, maybe I'm just setting the TRRDs way too tight, because why else would be crucial setting them manually? Where is it? Oh no, it's under motherboard. Yeah, so you can check your SPD in IDA, which is pretty neat. Actually, I should stretch this out so that we can see it better. And so here you can see the XMP profiles, but here you can actually see the full timing tables. And so you can see here the stock TRRDs are 10.642. So even with what I consider loose TRRD, this is actually a lot tighter than the stock configuration on the kit, because we're at 8.438. So the fall is 4 cycles shorter, the TRRDL is 2 cycles shorter, and the TRRDS is 2 cycles shorter. And so that actually does give you, like, even if we were at the same clock speed, this would still be faster than the stock configuration of this memory kit. So Yeah, so not as bad as I initially thought, because I didn't realize how bad it was thermal throttling, because it's a stock 11900K. A 240mm AIO should have no problem cooling this, and it didn't have any problem cooling this on the Gigabyte boards. And then here on on the Dark, for some reason, it's just the board's running so much voltage. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, so that's the memory overclock here. If you want to check the timings against ASRock timing configurator, if that, because obviously EVGA's BIOS layout is different from every motherboard vendor's, but you can check your own timings with ASRock timing configurator easily on any motherboard. So anyway, 18, 21, 21, 40. This might actually go lower. I'm not sure. I didn't test. And yeah, here you can see the command rate thing. So yeah, hardware info, the 2T here, this is correct. This right here is not accounting for the fact that you're in gear 2. And that literally is only an issue with command rate, as far as I'm aware. Well, yeah, as far as I know, that's only affects the command rate timing. Anyway, 10, 640, 8, 4, 14. Oh, actually, you don't set these two timings. You just set these two over here, and that configures those two. And yeah, they're really, like, this might be able to do 10 instead of 14, so you would be able to run like 28 instead of 32, and this might do 4, so you would be able to run like 22 instead of 26. Actually, maybe even less than that would be possible. So yeah, there's probably some headroom in these. Yeah, like, honestly, I'm just so done with this. Like, the fact that the TRRDL causes such infrequent errors on such a large capacity kit is so frustrating. It takes forever for the errors to pop up, right? So it's just, yeah. So I'm just happy that this, like, it runs. The performance is fine as far as I'm concerned. Like, for a 32 gig configuration, I think better is certainly possible, but it's probably much more difficult to do. And this was, like, ignoring the mess that is the TRRDL and the 4-active window, 4-active window being FAW. This is fine. Like, I would totally daily this. In fact, if I had more than one of these kits, one of these would have actually ended up in my daily, because these are super easy. Like, this would massively increase the kind of, like, on Ryzen, these are super easy to work with. They still have the TRRDL weakness, but yeah, these are great. Like, Micron's Rev B for as a single rank memory chip, it's great. And actually also in dual rank, it's great. It's a really cool memory chip. It's just a real shame that in order to find memory sticks that are guaranteed to have it, they get kind of expensive. But yeah, like, I'm honestly pretty pleased with this right here. There's still definitely some headroom in there. But I've spent way too much time trying to get this stable at this point. I'm just not going to mess with it. Like, maybe if it was in my daily system, I would have a day after, like, a few months where it's like, oh, I'm going to tighten up those 3 timings that I left kind of loose. And then it's like a day later. I did not manage to get anywhere with that, but yeah. So there, that's it for this video. Yeah, so that's a Crucial Ballistix. All right, I'm gonna keep holding it upside down. There we go. So yeah, that's the Crucial. Come on, focus, damn it. Yeah, that's the Crucial 2x16 4000 CL18 Ballistix Max kit, overclocked on the EVGA Z590 DARK. Thank you to Crucial and EVGA for providing the hardware, and that's it for the video. So thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave any comments, questions, suggestions down in the comment section below. If you'd like to support what I do here with actually hardcore overclocking, I have a Patreon. There's a link to that down in the description below. There's also the HOC Teespring store where you can pick up shirts, stickers, posters, the usual YouTuber merch. Both Patreon and Teespring help out immensely with running the channel, so it would be much appreciated if you'd check them out. And yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. That's the wrong mouse. This is the right mouse.